Casey's Audio Vault.
Billy Duffy from The Cult.
From August 29th, 2007. Hello,
Hi,
Billy.
Casey, how are you, my friend?
I'm very good. How are you today?
I'm pretty good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound great. How about myself?
Yeah, pretty good. In medium. I'm paying attention.
Okay. Well, where are you at?
It's a bit echoey or something. It's a little weird, but I can,
Whereabouts are you today?
I am in Hollywood. West Hollywood, California, to be specific.
Where are you calling home these days?
Well, I used to have this saying, I was like, wherever the cult is. But nowadays, I just live in Southern California.
You like that as opposed to back at home?
I'm very fortunate that I get to go home to the UK a couple of times a year, and I still have a little place up by a lake up near where I grew up in the northwest outside Manchester, and all my family and friends, and I go back. I'm very, very fortunate that I can do both, and I like the climate in Southern California, and it suits me. So yeah, I'm pretty good. I mean, it's not the most challenging place in terms of the intelligentsia, but it's okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, the album's coming out, and how do you feel about this new one? It's been a bit of a hiatus for the Cult over the past few years.
Yeah. I mean, I feel pretty good about it. I think the record went very smoothly. It was written and flowed very easily, and that gives me a very good feeling. A lot of our records that were like that were very good. Kind of reminds me of the Love album a little bit in the way it came together,
Does this one sort of have a theme or a feel? Because Love felt sort of maybe hippie-ish or psychedelic. Then you had Electric, where Rick Rubin stepped in and did a little bit more of the kind of a AC/DC.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think those things are always. I mean, in retrospect, I think I'm a little too close to it to make that kind of judgment. No, that's more like a sort of a hindsight view of what happened, and I think you need time to pass in order to be able to be that objective. But it's a decent record. It's got some good songs. It's strong. I like it. I'm happy with it.
Has it been pretty much the same sort of writing process? Because it's been you and Ian has been the real core for the Cult for all these years. You've had a few different people in and out.
Same again. We got together. We'd obviously done some gigs over the last year and a half, and during that period, we just started knocking some ideas together. But we basically just kind of knuckled down early this year, basically starting from January, and really sort of just put the focus on that and creating a record. And we just sort of went into it to see what it was like, I don't think, it's more like the philosophy is like if we get together and we think we've got some good songs, then we'll, inflict them on the public. And if we don't, then we probably wouldn't have, and it just flowed really well. It's very strong. It's quite catchy, commercial. There's a bit of a pop element to it, really, which is kind of funny. It's not really like the last one, Beyond Good and Evil, which was quite dark and heavy and gothic. This one has some heavy moments, but I wouldn't say it doesn't have that feel. To me, it felt more like the Love album, but, that was 20-odd years ago. It doesn't, it's not that, but, to me, that's how putting it together felt. Very organic, very natural, not very stressful. It's very easy, actually.
And were you planning on inflicting your music live? You got a tour figured out for this year?
Well, yeah, we are definitely. I mean, the album's out in October, and we're probably going to do, I believe we're doing an American tour first. I don't know whether that will include a couple of, Canadian shows, which is one way of doing it, or if we don't do that, we'd probably do a full Canadian tour, because the last Canadian tour we did really well on. We had some really good attendances. I mean, we'd no record out for 7-6 years, and just people showed up, and it was brilliant. So I'd like to be able to repeat that experience if I can.
You pretty much started out in the genre of punk. How do you feel about the way that sort of thing? You think that's even a relevant word these days?
Well, I mean, I think punk, if you're in the age bracket that me and Ian are, and you grew up as fans of punk rock, and certainly in my case saw a few. I think Ian was living in Canada when the punk thing happened, very early punk. But for me, in my personal experience in seeing those bands, it was quite life-changing. to actually be there and see the Sex Pistols and be in a room with like 200 people and see them in 1976, it changed my life. And as much as I have always been a fan of like kind of classic bluesy rock, like Free and, I guess, I don't know, Thin Lizzy, Led Zeppelin, whatever, that kind of music, the punk thing just really turned my life around and made it certainly so that it wasn't just an idea that I could be in a band. I mean, it was really, get 3 chords, pick up a guitar, and away you go,
Do you feel that you just grew out of it with your guitar style, just the simplicity of punk rock?
I sometimes try and go back there, I mean, I'm always just very much like an organic feel player. I just like, there was times in my career where I used to really practice a lot, and I think everybody was trying to, do a lot of lead guitar, and sometimes I go back to the Gretsch and just kind of try and play just with the big white Gretsch, and just makes me play differently, Experiment with it and just kind of gauge where Ian's at. It's like a sort of a chemical, it's like an organic thing, and just kind of sort of we get together and, there is a certain sort of chemistry between us that it's there, it's undeniable. And so it's just how to serve that the best, really, not try and showing off,
Are there any guitarists these days that you see or hear and you admire? I think you're one of the best guitar players in the world right now.
Well, thanks. You're very kind. I would say as an observation that there aren't. If I was picking, I would say that the world probably needs a new crop of guitar heroes. But maybe that's a thing that's gone forever. I don't really know. I mean, everybody's got the video game guitar hero, which isn't really much to do with playing guitar. It is being able to bang coloured bits of plastic. But I don't know. I think people are always going to want to. I just don't think there are any guitar heroes. Where's the new like Jerry Cantrell or Slash or Dave Navarro or there's names of guys even from our era, late 80s, early 90s. I mean, there's obviously the metal guys who've been around, and it's like a subcultural thing. But in kind of popular music, a lot of the young bands, I don't know how important the guitar player's role is. I mean, there's some guys who write great melodies, on guitar, but a lot of the bands in the last few years, they seem to be looking towards other instruments to try and fulfill that melodic kind of thing that the guitar does.
There's fewer guitar-driven bands these days.
Well, it's either metal, and then there was a lot of that kind of like subcultural kind of, Cookie Monster metal, where they weren't it wasn't really very expressive. It was kind of just more like how heavy and how low could you tune your guitar, and then you'd make it kind of a tiny little thin noise in the verse, and then the chorus would come and it'd sound like a nuclear bomb going off. But it wasn't really, it wasn't, to me it wasn't very expressive, or it expressed basically two simple emotions, and I don't know, man. But hey, in the meantime, we're still all going strong. So, if you want to see guys that can play a bit, we're still out there.
Right. Well, I appreciate you getting me on the phone here, Billy.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. I'm happy with the record. Nice to be able to talk about it. It's the single's doing really well. Dirty Little Rock Stars performing incredibly well in Canada. So it's knocking on the door of the top 10, which isn't bad.
You're getting great response in Winnipeg here from the track as well.
Yeah. Well, if people like that, there's more of that on the album. You know what I mean? If that, you won't be disappointed. I mean, it's definitely, we were blessed in that there was maybe 4 or 5 strong songs on the album, but we thought that one made the best opening kind of statement. And, it was great. It was kind of interesting, having kind of like that heavy, funky bass line and, doing things a little differently, just, turn things around.
Well,
sounds fresh to me. It doesn't sound dated, but it's got like blues lead guitar, but it sounds like fresh, so it's interesting.
Well, hopefully you guys can make it through Canada. If not Winnipeg, I'm sure we can get some road trips out to see you somewhere.
I'd be surprised if we don't do a Canadian tour. It really depends how well the record does, you know what I mean? It's really, so far the signs are very, very positive. So, if there's a demand there, we as a band always like to come to Canada. And in fact, we did it last year when we did that tour with, Controller. And so we'll see.
Well, take care and good luck with the album, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
All right, dude. Nice speaking to you. Thanks very much.
All the interviews you want on iTunes and at Power97.com. Casey's Audio Vault.
Casey Norman is Power 97's music director and can be heard every weekday from 2 till 6 in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada.
Power 97 is Winnipeg's best rock.